Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another Wi-Fi battle. This one is again another LBA battle. I actually just got done finishing with it. So for starters, these battles are really hard to explain, how the thought process is, because when I don't do it live, you can't really see how I think about it. So I kind of like doing this right after the battle so I can really have a fresh take on what I did and why I did things, so you guys get a legitimate picture instead of me just kind of saying, oh, I did this because this is gonna happen, when I know it's gonna happen, so I can say that and you'll never know. So I try to do it as legitimately as I can, so you guys know that I'm not trying to cheat you into thinking that I'm a better player than I am. Secondly, the question of the day is actually inspired by this battle. It's, how do you define stall? So I'm getting a lot of flack for using the team that I did because it does look really stally, and I do have a lot of walls on this team. But I really don't think I stall with this team. For those of you who've been long-time viewers of my channel, you know that I'm very used to using tanks, Pokemon who take hits but also dish out damage as well. So without spoiling too much, we'll get into this battle. Now, Corey was my opponent. He is the Axew Milan, the owner of the Axew Milan. I actually remember names for a change. I usually forget who does what. Now, yeah, I don't need this because it's 6v6. I don't know why I was looking for that. I was thinking about the PDL there. Basically, when I was looking at his team, I figured out the best ways around it, at least, on paper. So I noticed that Landorus was gonna be a decent problem for my team. I had a lot of things that could wall it pretty well, most notably Mantine and Cresselia. But, they can only take so much damage. I don't use Wish support. I do have, healing moves on them, but Mantine's a little lackluster. I gave it Aqua Ring for lack of a better choice. Not a big fan of that, but I didn't really have much of a choice, and I didn't really want to run Toxic. So, they have healing moves, but that's not really... It's not as good as Wish passing because you can't come in on a move, take it, and then heal back. You come in on a move, take a move, and then you have to take another move in order to get the HP back. But, yeah, it's just, so, I figured Landorus would be my biggest problem, so I Scarfed Heliolisk for that specifically. I also knew that Scarf Heliolisk would outspeed Crobat, and since Crobats will generally not run Scarf, I was pretty safe with that, and I do believe that I outsped Mega Manectric after that as well, because his Mega is Manectric. So yeah, I just kind of brought what I thought would be good. I brought a defensive Arcanine, but with 2 offensive moves. I figured what I brought the Arcanine for was Chandelure. I do believe he has a Chandelure. I can't check right now, but I believe that is why I made this Arcanine. Either way, I just cloned it from my battle from Bluesy, because I knew he had a Chandelure, and I think they both had really similar teams, so I brought really similar teams myself. But, I kind of figured here and there were some changes that needed to be made. Donphan actually has Ice Shard this time because I figured it was a little bit better because, Landorus is 4 times weak. I didn't need another move, So that's basically my thought process behind it. So when he brought this team, I noticed that he had 2 potential Stealth Rock users, Miltank and Landorus, and while my team doesn't really dislike Stealth Rocks, Mantine and Arcanine, who are a really awesome wall core, they really don't like Stealth Rocks, so I didn't want Stealth Rocks up at any point. So I started off with Sableye, not because I figured he would have a lead that I could beat with Sableye, mainly because I wanted to get him Mega Evolve first turn so I can just ignore every single Stealth Rocks instance and status instant and all that jazz. So I'm going to Mega Evolve here. I do go for Will-O-Wisp. I wasn't really sure what he would come in. He could come in with the Vaporeon like he did, but he didn't have anything that didn't dislike Will-O-Wisp, so I figured, extra damage isn't that big of a deal. So I go for Will-O-Wisp, and I'm thinking, okay, Vaporeon, what do they do? Well, he probably has Wish, he probably has Protect, he probably has Toxic. So while I did kind of want to switch out into Heliolisk here, I kind of figured my best bet would be actually to stay in with Sableye, because I figured whatever he's going to go for, it's not going to really do much to Sableye, and I can at the very least, get rid of his items so he can't, constantly with Vaporeon. I really only have on my team Heliolisk to hit this Vaporeon, and Vaporeons are pretty bulky, so I know my Volt Switch won't be taking it out. So what I do here is I taunt him, and knowing that he basically has to go for an attack, I switch into Heliolisk. But yeah, I switch in, he obviously will get his HP back, and my Volt Switch won't be doing too much, so I figured he's going to switch out. He probably only has Scald, and I was expecting Wish and Protect and Toxic. So I go for Hyper Voice, predicting either the Manectric or the Landorus to come in, but he actually comes into Scizor, and that actually kind of is a bit of an issue. I'm thinking maybe it's going to go for Swords Dance, because there's no way I'm going to stay in against the Scizor. I can take a Bullet Punch, but I'm not doing very much, and while he may not know that, I am Scarf, so I have to switch out. So I switch out into Arcanine, and unfortunately he goes for Knockoff, and I lose my Life Orb, which is not great. Now, I did say at the beginning of the battle that my Arcanine is defensive. I threw on a Life Orb because with the attack that I had invested already on it, it wasn't enough to get enough to warrant some of the attacks on my Arcanine, which are Flare Blitz and Wild Charge. So I gave it a Life Orb to give it an extra oomph, especially against Vaporeon, who I can do a decent amount of damage with Wild Charge now with the Life Orb, and that would be pretty crucial in this battle, or at least on paper in this battle. When I was looking at this battle, I figured my best bet would be to bring a Life Orb Wild Charge Arcanine, but I didn't want to make it fully offensive because I knew that with the Chandelure around, I would need to be a little bit defensive so I can at least beat the Chandelure. So I actually switch into Mantine to sort of gauge what he's going to do, and then I realized I don't really have anything for it because I got rid of Seed Bomb, so I switched out into Sableye because, Vaporeon's not going to really be doing very much to my Sableye. I stay in here because I really just want to gauge how much he's going to do with this Earth Power. I knew the Earth Power was coming. I could have very easily just switched into Mantine. But for me, just to know, because I knew I would survive it, I was just curious how much it would do, seeing that he was offensive. I also wanted to kind of just double check that he wouldn't be going for Stealth Rocks, because like I said, it would hamper my Arcanine and my Mantine. So I just wanted to stick around. I went for Recover that turn, since I don't run Protect, and actually not having Prankster really did help me on that turn. It was just a really good way to gauge the strength of that Landorus. So here I was predicting the Vaporeon to come back in, and I wasn't really sure what my best play was. I was really considering going to Heliolisk, but I thought that would give me not as good of a advantage, because, he could switch out into anything, and since I'm locked in with Choice Scarf, it just wouldn't really be doing well for me. So I double switch out because at this point I figured, okay, he's probably just going to go for Scald. At this point I didn't realize he had Ice Beam. So he goes for Ice Beam and predicting the Heliolisk to come in, which is, really wish I didn't have to take damage there. But, just biting the bullet, thinking that if he does bring in the Manectric, at the very least, Cresselia can take a Thunderbolt, or Donphan can come in on a Thunderbolt. But the +1 Manectric does kind of ruin my Donphan a bit, so I had to play that cautiously. But I went for a Volt Switch because I kind of figured the Sableye, I kind of figured, at the very least, I had Cresselia to go in. Now, he brings in the Scizor, and it does a lot of damage to my Sableye. I'm actually max HP, max defense. I don't remember why. Sableye was really hard for me to figure out an EV spread for. It was really difficult for me to figure out. I just didn't know what to do, so I just went for the Smogon standard, which was defensive. And I switch out here to Arcanine. I was predicting a switch, but I can't say what I was predicting it to. Oh no, it was Scizor, that's why. That's right. Scizor was out, so I switched into Arcanine. I didn't actually expect him to switch. So seeing the Manectric, I go into my Donphan because I can take a Thunderbolt. I figured he'd go for a Thunderbolt here. He actually goes for his Volt Switch. I didn't catch that, actually. I wrote down in my notepad, T-Bolt. So that's actually I'm glad that... Oh, man. Wow, that's not good. So at -1, you know, I calc this out. I'm Assault Vest. I would beat the Manectric, but I would take quite a heck of a lot of damage over the course of the turn. But I figured it was worth it, because what else am I going to use Donphan for in this battle? He's got a couple of things immune to Earthquake. He's got a Vaporeon who doesn't really mind Earthquake, and so on and so forth. So what I do here is I actually bring in Sableye, because I kind of expected a Body Slam, to be quite honest with you. Actually, honestly, one of the sole reasons I brought Sableye was to wall Miltank. I didn't even consider it at Stealth Rocks. Right before the battle started, I was like, oh god, who am I going to lead with? You know, I should probably lead with Sableye, because I don't really know what it comes with. You know, I don't know, I always forget who has Stealth Rocks, because I'm so used to people not using Stealth Rocks. Yeah, so I led with Sableye for that reason, and I brought Sableye specifically because I knew that Miltank couldn't touch it. Well, so the last turn that just happened, I went for Recover because, like I said, Miltank can't really touch Sableye in the least bit. So I wanted my HP back because I know that he still had, I think it was the Landorus in the back. So if I got caught, you know, against it where I couldn't really switch out, I wanted that HP to take the Earth Power. I like being at full HP so I can take hits, you know. Yeah, that's really it. So here I switch into Cresselia because I was expecting him to go for Psychic, predicting the Mantine to go in. Either way, it was still a safe switch for me. Now he goes for Sludge Wave here. I'm assuming to hopefully get Poison, but that doesn't really make sense to me because he has Sheer Force. Pretty much guaranteed to have Sheer Force. So I guess that was just his better attack. Obviously, I'm not saying that he did it to go for Poison. That's what I thought at first, and then I corrected myself. So even though I knew that the Crobat was Life Orb, and I knew that he was going to go for U-turn, I stayed in and went for Psychic. I had no reason to switch out and give him the switch initiative. I will survive the U-turn no matter what. I kind of forgot that I had Citrus Berry, actually, so that pretty much negated most of what the damage he did there. And just take note here, look how much damage my Psychic does to this Miltank, and that was a really, really good indicator for me. My Cresselia is relatively offensive. This specific one, it's the exact one I use in VGC. Obviously a different moveset, I can't really use Helping Hand here. It's designed specifically to take hits, stay in, do a really decent amount of damage with Psychic and Ice Beam, and just help tank moves, man. I love this Cresselia. So we're in against Miltank, and you know, we're slowly finding out what this thing has, and I'm actually sort of realizing that Miltank might have Scrappy. So Scrappy Body Slam might be a problem. But he's going for Milk Drink here over and over, and no Body Slam coming out, so I'm really starting to think maybe he doesn't have it, or if he does, he doesn't have Scrappy. So I don't really know the purpose. I guess he was just trying to avoid coming in on a knock-off rather. So I go for Taunt because he can Milk Drink all he wants. Once I taunt him, he can't do anything. And then at that point there, I went for a Will-O-Wisp because, you know, Knockoff isn't going to really be doing very much to it after it loses its item. So I'd rather just get some chip damage off on it. And plus, if he switches out into anything, you know, that will take a burn. And luckily for me, he switches out into the Crobat. And I don't miss the burn, which is awesome. So yeah, in comes Manectric, and I know I can't really stay in against this thing. So even though HP Ice may be coming, I do switch into my Donphan here. And I can take 3 HP Ices, right? And since I'm not at -1, there's a chance that I will one-hit KO this Manectric. Unfortunately, that was the risk I was willing to take, and it does pay off for me in the end. He doesn't actually have Hidden Power Ice, which I found a little interesting. I'm not sure what it was. I really don't know what it was, and that kind of... I'm actually really curious to know what that was. It might have been... It could have been grass, so it might have been ground for the Arcanine? I don't know why it would be ground. Maybe... Well, he wouldn't need HP Electric. maybe HP Fire, but I don't really have anything on my team that would really do that. So this turn I go for Volt Switch on the Vaporeon, really expected to take it out, and it doesn't, and I was really surprised at that. I was really surprised at that. So this is one hell of a bulky Vaporeon. I know Heliolisk isn't really the strongest of things, you know, it does have only base 109 special attack, and I don't know. But he goes for Wish here, which I think might have been a misplay, because had he gone for Scald, I was actually really, you know, contemplating here what to do, because I figured Scald would take me out, and I was really concerned, because while I could switch into Cresselia can't really do very much to the Vaporeon. I mean, it was at low enough HP that I could have taken it out with Psychic. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure what to say, but basically, this battle I'm really proud of how I did. Corey is definitely one of the better battlers in the league. He really is. Most people actually in this league are really good, but Corey's been known to be really good, and so coming here with the 6-1 victory, especially after the last battle, it was so pressure releasing. But at the same time, I kind of got called out for stalling, and I know for sure. Actually, hold on, I dropped my stylus. Doesn't matter, we're not really playing anymore. I know for sure that the members in the league don't appreciate stall. I don't like it either, I'll be quite honest. I don't come to these battles preparing for stall. I don't... This is basically the question of the day. How do you define stall? For me, defining stall is basically wasting turns to gain HP and whittle down your opponent. The mons I brought were fairly offensive, with the sole exception, well, not sole, I guess you would say Mantine. Well, no, Mantine was pretty offensive the way I EV trained it. Maybe. I don't remember exactly what I put on it. But I'll give you, Sableye is pretty much the quintessential stall Pokemon. But I didn't know what else to do with Sableye. You know, I brought it really because there were a lot of things that it walls. You know, it walls Crobat, it walls Scizor, it walls Miltank. So, I mean, I had very good reason to bring it, and that's why I did. And I run knockoff. You know, I was considering maybe Shadow Ball, but if I went for Shadow Ball, that would leave me high and dry against Miltank. If I brought Dark Pulse, that would leave me high and dry against Vaporeon. So I went for just a simple alternative knockoff. If I get rid of their items, it will work really well for me. And plus, Sableye kind of forces switches, so that allows me to go for knockoffs, you know? So in my honest opinion, I don't think it was really that bad. It really wasn't. You know, I'm not going to point fingers. I'm not going to say, like, oh, these jackasses did this, or oh, that asshole did this. You know, I'm not going to say that. They're entitled to their opinions, and while I did bring a lot of defensive mons, 5 out of the 4 Pokemon are defensive. But at the same time, I do try really hard, and I do want to make that clear. I try really hard to not make them fully defensive. You know, my Arcanine has only defensive investment with maybe 8 or so in attack, but I gave it a Life Orb so I can actually hit things harder than it would without it. You know, I gave my Donphan Assault Vest so I can stay in versus Manectric and take it out with an Earthquake. There's always reasonings behind the sets that I have, and I can understand where you think that there might be stall here, and you're right, there was at certain points. But there was on both sides too. I'm just saying, it just kind of perturbed me to be kind of criticized for playing this way. And, you know, no hard feelings against anyone. I personally am really proud of how this battle went, and yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. I like the 6 mons. I didn't even really get to use Heliolisk. I I spent so much time trying to figure out that moveset for him. Honestly, my biggest concerns were Landorus and Chandelure. That's mainly what this team was for, because by beating those guys, I had a way of beating everything else, and that's mainly the choices behind the Arcanine and the Donphan and the Cresselia. That's really why I brought those guys, and Mantine. They all have a way to beat Chandelure and Landorus, and that's kind of why I brought that. That's kind of why I brought Scarf Heliolisk. I said at the beginning it was mainly for Scarf Landorus, but it was also just in case he wanted a Scarf or Chandelure. So I can come in on a Shadow Ball. Outspeed. I mean, obviously if he's Scarfed, he's going to be switching out. But, you know, if he's not Scarfed, at the very least I'll switch out and Volt Switch, you know? I don't know. I have reasonings for what I brought. I didn't want to stall. I don't think I stalled. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. No hard feelings. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys at the next episode. Peace.